Welcome to the Featured Anime Podcast. I'm your host, Jack.
And I'm Rick.
And today we are talking about No Longer Allowed in Another World, which was a recommendation. But before that, we were talking about the last couple of weeks for yours truly, as well as a couple other things, and how Rick could wishes he could get a sponsorship from AAA. Want to hear a part of that water conversation as well as anything else? Check us out on patreon.com/featured anime podcast. $8 a month to get you access to that bonus content. And of course, you can also join us live on twitch.tv/featured anime podcast to hear all this wonderful information live and up front. And of course, all our information and everything else, feel free to let us know or reach out to us. All our contact information and everything else is available on our website at featuredanimepodcast.com. And now, let's talk about something very near and dear to my stomach, and that's Tokyo Treats. Tokyo Treats, that's right. Especially for our listeners, if you use coupon code Featured Anime along with our affiliate link in the show notes, you save yourself $5 off that very first box, and trust me, those treats are worth it. They're delicious. I can't get enough of them. The only thing I'm ever disappointed about in them every single month is the fact that I kill that box inside that same day. I have no self-control. I have completely ruined my diet with these boxes, and I couldn't be happier. I'm telling you this right now. The boxes are great. Treats in them are delicious, and I can't wait to get more of them. And now, onto the meat and potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
No Longer Allowed in Another World came out in July 2024, ran all the way through September 2024, so it is a relatively new anime in comparison to when we're recording it, at least at the time of us recording it. And the producers for it are Movic ATX, Magic Capsule, just to name a couple of them. And the studio for it is Ulterior Pendark. It's based off of a web manga. And the genres are comedy, adventure, fantasy, isekai, and parody. And it is 12 episodes long.
Yes.
Now, the basis of this story is that you have our main protagonist who simply goes by the name Sensei, and or not by the name Sensei, but he is called Sensei, and he gets isekai'd into another world via Truck-kun, pun intended there, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But basically, he is told that he has to save the world and really kind of push forward with saving everything. He doesn't want to do that. In fact, he's actually upset that he is still alive, because instead of Truck-kun actually coming there and saving him and bringing him into the other world, because that's what it was supposed to happen, he was trying to kill himself. He was trying to commit suicide. And so the running dark joke in this anime is that he is consistently trying to kill himself. He does not want to survive. He wants to die. And as a result, he ends up being the hero that world actually needs in its time of great need, in its time of a point where it actually has to happen.
I guess.
I mean, like, it's unwilling. It's not what he wants, but it ends up happening like that. And that's the journey, is him kind of looking for a way for him to die, because every time he's put in a situation where where he can die, he's excited for it and happy about it. And at the exact same time, he's also trying to find his love, the woman he loves.
Yeah, but I mean, technically, depending on how you want to go through with your definition, they had a suicide pact that they followed through on. Just because Truck-kun decided to come through like the Kool-Aid man and destroy any semblance of everlasting peace or quiet or something, No, 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 no. Oh, you wanted to die? Oh, that's a shame. I have a quest for you.
Well, no,
Only you, hero.
Well, it's not even that, right? At first, when he gets summoned into the world, right? When Sensei gets summoned into the world, Aneta is already down in the rocks. She's down in the dumps. Every time someone gets brought into the world, it's because they're really depressed. They don't want to be there anymore. And so she even knows, oh, didn't this truck help bring you into the world? Because one of the memes for our community is that Truck-kun is there to isekai you into the other world. Whenever you get isekai, there's usually a truck that, that is taking you there. Well, they literally took that entire meme and made it the basis for why and how everyone gets transported into their world.
What's crazy to me is the people being summoned into this world aren't the cream of the crop.
No.
You know what I mean? Like they're not even, they're middling at best, but they're treated as if they are essentially immortals.
Well, they're and they even state this. It's even stated that the reason why they're being brought into this world is because they are greatly depressed. They have really kind of lost their will to live, or they're just really super massively depressed. So they kind of fall in and flow in with a like, hey, you know what? Why don't you come hang out with us and dig how it is to be with us? And so what ends up happening is all these people that are kind of down and out or just really kind of given the short end of the stick in their lives are then thrusted into a situation where they have these like really super strong powers, and they're told that they're a chosen one and that they are super strong and all this other stuff, and they're given all this status and everything else that they honestly don't deserve. A majority of them don't deserve it at all. And as a result, they're the ones that are, finally getting full of themselves because they're no longer on the short end of the stick. They're now the ones dishing it out instead of taking it, so to speak.
Yeah, that works. But one of the things I thought was interesting is there's an old saying that says, if you want to know someone's true color, give them power. Give them power and give them money, because money doesn't change a person. It just allows you to be who you really are. Same with power. If you give someone the authority to do something and they're all of a sudden real mean about it, that's who they always were. They were just lacking the power to do so, to act the way they wanted to act as freely as they now are. And here, like, you've got, I think it's like what they tracked it with the 7 deadly sins. You have pride, you have greed, envy.
Yeah, it is the 7 deadly sins. I mean, like, except they call them the 7 fallen angels or something like that. Because, and here's the other thing that you really kind of have to keep in mind. It's that all of these people, and there's a lot. It's not just 1, 2, 3, or 7, or 8, or 9. It's a lot of people that were brought into that world for a very specific and singular purpose. And almost all of them, from the looks of it, if not almost all of them, not all of them, but a large chunk of them are all dirtbags. They got the power, and they're all dirtbags, right? They put themselves in a position of power, and now they're like, hey, guess what? We're the ones in charge now, right? Which totally goes with how human nature largely is. And I'm really happy that they took this point and shined a light on it, because human nature by far, if you take them out of their original world and you put them into this one, and a majority of those who end up getting transported into that world are not going to be good people. They're going to totally use it to their advantage. It's human nature. It's who we are as a species, unfortunately. And we're just going to become full of ourselves. A majority of us are.
No, I agree with you. You are right.
And they totally showcase that in this anime. They take the people that finally have that taste of power, and they're finally able to do to others what they've always had done to them, instead of being the bigger person or being someone far better than who they could have been, or they could have been the ones going out there like, hey, let me try and help you out. Let me do this. Let me do that, or anything else. They take it and go, fine. You know what? I've always been treated like this. Now you're going to get treated like this.
Mm. I mean, yeah. You would think with the amount of quote unquote heroes that show up, like they'd be basically overrun. There'd be too many.
Well, they probably only pulled them in for a certain amount, and then they stopped after the Demon Lord was destroyed. Now, here's the other thing that I really liked in this too, is it's not just showcasing the personalities of the people and how they naturally are across the board. It showcases like how even if you try to do good or something like that, if you're put in a particular situation and you don't look at the overall picture or the full picture of it, yes, X may seem like a really great idea, or it may seem really great, and you feel like what you're doing is, the absolute best thing. But because you're only looking at it from one point of view, one angle, and you're not taking a look at that 10,000 foot view,
Yeah.
you're totally missing the point, right? You're keeping blinders on, so to speak. And that's another thing that they do really well in this anime, is they have people that step in and they look at it from a very particular or very poignant point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, all right, here's what this is. And when you're looking at it, it makes sense from their point of view. They, you're totally on board with their side, but then you start looking at it from another point of view, and it's like, well, are they right? I mean, like, should this be done that way? Should it be like this? Should it be like that? I mean, like, let's, how about we take a step back here and kind of figure it out, and it just, again, it shows that the true or the reality of human nature, by and large, for a lot of people, is it's not necessarily they're mad about that one bad thing or about that one thing that was happening there. They're mad because they weren't the ones that were capitalizing on it in the first place.
Yeah. And it's like they take their own values, as dejected and as good or bad as they were from their original world, and brought them here. And you've got like mob bosses, and I don't think Truck-kun's coming after mob bosses, but apparently they do. And
right. I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that.
No, and this one dude has an amazing ability. Everyone, for the record, everyone is being like, oh, I've got this super amazing OP ability. It was like their default. OP ability. OP ability. This overpowered ability. And then this one dude's overpowered ability essentially disrupts the economy.
Yeah. Well,
he makes it rain
a matter
gold.
of how he uses it, right? Here's the other thing too. Here's the other thing. They all call it overpowering ability. This OP ability. And the only ones that are calling it that are the other worlders, right? The people that were transported into that world. And I do want to ask you a question on that here in a second.
Sure.
But they don't call it an overpowered ability. They just call it a gift. The natives to that world. You have a particular gift.
Okay.
So it's not that it's an overpowered ability, because not everyone has an overpowering ability. They have a very unique gift or unique skill to them. So,
I mean, gift, ability, curse.
It's not
depending on how
overpowered.
you look at it. It depends on how you use it, because these people, the only way I could see this as being overpowered would probably be there doesn't seem to be a hard limit for their ability to use it. There doesn't seem to be I'm too tired to move on most of the time. The chick who had greed, we see her learning how to use the ability, and then something happens and she flips a switch in her head where it breaks, and all of a sudden there doesn't seem to be a limit. The only limit was her own mental block, if you will. And the dude who can make money for days doesn't seem to have a limit. The guy who could pat people on the head and make them his slaves,
you need to keep in
have a
mind
limit.
that he had that money. He created the money for days, but then it disappeared. When he lost when he lost his concentration on it. So there's
I thought he just had the ability to make it disappear on its own. Like he was like, nope, I paid you, but not really, and then took it back.
Well, no, he got chased off. He got nervous when that happened because of what happened. He was like, oh no. But again, like, it's not a matter of it being overpowered or whatever, because if that was the case, he would go around, he would buy the whole town, right? It's probably only a limitation on it. And there's probably a very small limitation on it, or there's limitations in which that they're going to be useful, or situations where they would only be useful.
So you think that they might have been built to fail?
Some of them, no, it's not that they were built to fail. It's probably why so many were brought in. You cast a wide net, and you'll get some that are good, but you're gonna get a lot that aren't.
Yeah. Yeah, and then our main protagonist has an OP ability called Wanting to Die.
Yeah.
And I don't understand his perks, his ability. I understand one of his abilities happens to be a game changer, according to the Pope, where he's able to send heroes back.
Yeah. But there's a lot more that goes into it too, and they do explore
so
that,
much more.
Right?
It feels like his good.
And his skill doesn't unlock right away. It only unlocks about what, episode 3, episode 4 is when it finally unlocks.
Yeah.
Right.
And it doesn't stick around because it's not a hard, like, go away.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's his skill is dependent on him writing a story, not just writing, but writing a story that he truly likes, and writing it to completion about whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be about other worlders or anything else. It could be about anyone.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Well, anybody assuming you had a Truck-kun intervention.
No,
Dude,
about anyone. It could be about anyone. And the reason why I say this is because he writes it about Tama. And it affects her directly.
Yeah. And see, again, this is one of the things that makes me curious about his ability, because
his ability is simply called a story writer, right?
Storyteller, yeah. It's inconsistent though.
How so?
It's highly the abilities he uses, or he's getting to use, are just so vastly different and doesn't appear to be connected. In one instance, he teleports people away. In another instance, he boosts Toma to like near god status, it feels like, in comparison to what she was. And in another, his health goes from like perpetually 1
his
to
health status
insane.
has nothing to do with the storyteller. or the writing.
No, it doesn't. But
It has nothing. No, you don't conflate the two. Like that skill has nothing to do with that.
Does he have two? So here, let me say this then.
His vitality.
Yep.
You have to understand. He wants to die. The whole premise of this anime is he wants to die.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be there.
Right. And so he's perpetually poisoning himself. So he's always poisoned. So if anyone tries to kill him or stab him, bite him, or anything like that, they're going to get poisoned instead. And his vitality starts going up. He starts actually gaining health when he's excited about dying, because that's when his vitality goes from a 1 to 1,000,000, and it just keeps going up and up and up and up. So his mental state is affecting his vitality. It has nothing to do with the unique skill, because he was having that unique skill even before then. Even before that whole thing happened, before it unlocked, he had that vitality boost when he was about to die. He was excited he's about to die. I'm going to die. This is great. He's happy. He's actually embracing and wanting it, and his health is working against him. His vitality at that point is working against him, not allowing him to reach that. And that's you can't say that those are a part of his unique skill, because it's not even showing as a unique skill. It's unknown why that's happening.
Well, this kind of plays into my I don't know if it's an assumption. My idea for the understanding is that he doesn't have one unique skill, or rather the unique skill he has isn't the one we're thinking of, isn't the one that we were described. His unique skill is, well, I mean, for lack of a better way to put it, it's whatever it needs to be. His unique skill is the Deus ex machina of whatever you got, what is what you need, and whatever you need, you'll have in abundance.
Skill. So the skill that affects everyone, not his vitality, the skill, his storyteller skill. The title of the book or of the story that he's writing is what dictates what's going to happen to that character.
Yeah.
Because
correct, yeah.
So him writing the story about that individual and then giving it a conclusion and then saying this is the name of it is what is actually going to inflict whatever happens, whether that person is no longer allowed in the other world, whether they need to return to the other world, or pick your flavor as to whatever it is. That's what's going to end up happening. The vitality skill has nothing to do with it. So the vitality skill is still an unknown, because they all look at his status and they don't see anything that would even come close to remotely anything that could possibly deal with it.
I guess I can see that.
You look at his stats several times, and there ain't no skills or anything there, and the only one that's there is the storyteller, the book,
even
the
that
story
disappears.
writer. No, it doesn't disappear. It appears. And they stated that it only appeared because certain conditions were met.
Yeah, and then I could have maybe I'm wrong.
No, because they checked his status after the fact too.
And it wasn't there.
It was there.
Then I misunderstood the entire show, because, well, not the entire, but his entire power set, because I could have sworn they checked it again and it just was not available like it would be for somebody else. And where with other people, it's a permanent. Once they unlock it, it's good to go.
No,
whereas with
everyone had it out the gate. His wasn't unlocked out the gate. His unlocked under a certain situation. And that's what they talked about. Because when they first checked his status, he didn't have it. When he did finally unlock it, that's when it was a part of there. And that's what they were talking about. That's what they had. And that's that entire conversation you talked about. Normally everyone has it right out the gate. I guess for him, it only unlocked under certain circumstances. And the certain circumstances were the circumstances in which it unlocked, which was episode like 3 or 4.
I don't know, man. It makes sense. It in the way that you describe it, it makes a weird kind of sense. It's conflicting with what I remember. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm certainly not saying I'm right. It's just it flips my preconceived notion of how his ability works and what made him special. It flipped it and twists it and
well, how his ability works, right?
Mhm.
Is he has to write a story and he has to want to write the story. So one, they don't know how his skill unlocked. They just know that it unlocked. They don't know how to truly activate the skill. And that's I think where you're getting confused, is that they're not sure how it's activating, right? Or the conditions in which it's used to activate, like send someone home, or the conditions in which it's done for it to be there, right? So it's there for them to be able to see. They can go know that he has that skill. However, the conditions in which it needs to be used is unknown to them. So for him, right, the only time that skill ever activates and the only time it's ever used is when it is a story that he likes. That's when the
that
skill
he's attracted
activates.
to, and that
Yeah.
that
So
enthralls him to write it.
right. It's activated. It's there for him to be able to see. However, the times in which it is used is only used in stories which enthrall him, entice him, where he wants to write about it. That's the only time when those stories actually happen. That's the only time when his skill is actually used. So I think that's where you're getting confused, because it's at the beginning he had no skill. It said nothing in there of the sort, and then it finally unlocked, and it's there. However, he doesn't really use it until another certain point or another time, and everyone's like, well, obviously it's storyteller, so you write the story and then the power happens. The thing is he has to be drawn to the story to write it, and to write it to conclusion. And then when he writes it to conclusion and gives it a title, that's when the story activates.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Now, do you think that there's something to it when it comes to who he uses his ability against versus who he uses the ability against versus who he needs to? Like, it doesn't seem like he can pick and choose his enemies. Maybe that's not the right way to put it. His subjects. Like, he can't pick and choose them. It's just something's piqued his interest, and then once he's bored of it, he's like, never mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of the drawback for him. It's the drawback for Sensei, in that he isn't able to really pick in the traditional sense what he wants to write about. It's more along the lines of this thing ends up happening, so he wants to write about it, is what it ends up being.
Okay. Wouldn't it be the sickest thing if he ends up having like a Death Note kind of thing? But instead of killing people, he can do whatever he wants. Because he writes these intricate stories about their past, their future, their present, and he rips up their future and essentially tells them that they have their own ability to get a future, or they are their own authors. Something motivational, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, you know what? Here, and I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna think about this a little bit more, right? I think you're. I don't know.
Not the only one that's confused now.
No, I was gonna say, like, because I was thinking about it a little bit more, that only the other all the other worlders, and to reference back one of your points, is that all the other worlders that he wrote a story about, I was trying to think of one, if there was one where he wrote a story about another worlder that didn't get sent back. And I don't think there is. Is there a story about another worlder that didn't get sent back?
Not that he wrote.
Yeah, so all the other worlders got sent back to their world that he wrote a story about. Right? And then the ones he did that weren't about another worlder didn't get sent anywhere. They just got boosted.
Okay. Yeah,
I could be mistaken. There could be one or two other worlders that did not get sent back.
I don't think there was. From whenever he was intentional about writing the story, I don't think there was somebody who ever really escaped him.
Well, there are others that are still there, obviously, that are other worlders.
Yeah,
but
they didn't pique his interest.
Yeah. Oh, well, hopefully there is more going to be coming out, but honestly, I don't have too much more that I can really dive into, at least without giving away some of the more core story plots and things like that. And there's a lot of great battles, a lot of great comedy in this, and there's they definitely do touch on a lot of different things where they hit at larger, more overarching stories happening than what you're actually kind of privy to. And so this is definitely a unique anime to watch. This is something that you can enjoy. However, if the idea of someone wanting to commit suicide or die constantly, and they are someone that's going out there seeking their own death, is something that bothers you, I would not suggest you to watch this. Simply because that is the whole premise, that is the whole thing that surrounds this entire show, is that he is going around trying to find a way to die or find someone that's willing to kill him. And that is the whole premise of this anime. Like for Sensei, like that is his whole deal. So if you are easily triggered by that, if it's like even gonna kind of rub you the wrong way, I would honestly say that this is not an anime for you.
Most likely not.
Yeah. So, but
most likely not, unfortunately.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't have too much more I could really talk about. How about you, sir?
No, like you said, unless we were willing to go into super spoiler warnings and spoiler territory, then this is unfortunately all we can really do. Hopefully it's enticed you to watch it, because it's it's funny. It's a good show. It's laughable. Oh, there's one thing that I found utterly hysterical. The way that he's transported or gets transported or transports.
Yeah, he's in a coffin the whole time.
Yeah, he laid with roses, and instead of putting wheels on it, they have to the two people he's with end up having to drag the thing everywhere, and they're just happy to do it. Yeah. And I thought this mechanic in the game in the show was real interesting. It's not just the heroes that hear, I'm going to call it the voice of the world, giving you updates on your own status. Whereas Tomo was dragging this dang thing all over, and by like the third city, she gets a notification, hey, due to your rigorous exercise, you've gained a level.
Yeah, and she is very much upset over the fact that she is leveled up because of that. It is the thing that irks her to no end.
Yeah, it's
hilarious.
Quirky stuff like that that's sprinkled throughout the show, and it's good. So highly recommend it.
All right,
but I can't go into further detail.
Right.
Without making it moot to watch.
Exactly. So on a scale of up to 10, sir, how would you rate this?
This show starts rough. I'm not gonna lie. It tested my policy of having a 3-episode minimum. Sorry. By episode 2.5, that's when it was really starting to pick up. So overall, I'm gonna have to give it like a 6.
Okay.
I would recommend it. It's not something I'd be like, you have to watch. If you're bored and you want a harebrained, no, I don't have to think about anything show, this is it. This is 100% it. Unless they get a season 2. There's some nice payouts. There are some story arcs that do reach fruition and conclusion. There's no powering down. You know how some anime you'll have a main, not a main character, but you'll have like characters gain strength, and then when they find someone new to fight, all of a sudden they're just as weak as they were in episode 1, and you're like, well, what happened to all the fighting you did? What happened to all the experience? You just throw that out the okay. Here they don't do that. It's a consistent. When you learn a skill, that skill stays with you, and it doesn't get any weaker than the first time you used it. And yes, that does mean that the enemies do get stronger, but it's a nice progression, and it's entertaining for what it is. So I'm gonna give it a 6.
Okay. For me, I'm gonna go actually higher. I'm gonna go with an 8. And the reason why I'm going with an 8 is because it was entertaining. I found it very funny. It was enjoyable for me to watch. The animation was good. The music was good. The storytelling was solid for it. It had several stories that came about and then you got resolved almost immediately. There were even some tidbits or nuggets in there where you're watching it and you're wondering, am I ever going to find out about X? And then you actually do, like 5 episodes, 6 episodes later, find out about X and all these other things that you're hoping to come true or come to fruition or anything like that actually do. So even if they don't get a season 2, it still gives you a satisfactory ending, knowing that it will still continue on. And it's not like there's a whole bunch of questions that you're kind of given for the ending.
Yeah.
So it does give you a satisfactory ending. It does give you a lot of answers. It gives you questions, obviously, but at the exact same time, you're given a lot of answers and a lot of information to make things better in general for you. So,
Agreed.
So, next week we're going to be watching a movie.
Oh, okay. What movie?
We're going to be watching excuse me. I believe I actually sent it to you too. It's Alice in Wonderworld Land.
Okay, yes, I think you have.
Yeah, it's let me double check. Yeah, Alice Wonderful Wonder World is
Alice Wonderful Wonder World.
Yeah. Harnoku Nine no Alice Wonderful Wonder World is what we're watching next week. It is a movie. So if you feel like we did too much justice, not enough justice, or anything like that, feel free to let us know. You can reach out to us on all the wonderful information medias and everything like that, contact information, all that wonderful stuff, Discord links, everything's in the show notes. It's also on our website at featuredanimepodcast.com. You can also leave us a comment and a review on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or anything like that. Let us know what you all think about us, the information, anything at all, really, honestly. If you rate us, leave us a review, everything like that helps us gain that exposure, helps us grow. And until next time, I'm Jack.
I'm Rick. And we'll see you next time.